The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, August 21st, 2026. We're live here at CHD TV. I'm really excited about this guest this morning. I'm actually just going to bring her straight on. It's Wendy Fournier. I've known Wendy for a long, long time, been in the game together for I don't know how many years. Wendy, good morning.
Good morning, Polly. It is so wonderful to see you. I miss you.
I missed you too, and it's lovely. So, to the viewers out there, because we do have young viewers now, who may not know who you are, Wendy, tell everyone who you are.
Okay, I was one of the founding board members of the National Autism Association. The org was started back in 2003. It was primarily moms and a handful of fabulous dads who had kids with regressive autism, most due to a vaccine injury. We started the National Autism Association because there was nobody there. There was nobody out there at the time to represent our families and try to figure out what happened and how we could make them better, how we could improve their quality of life. And so we started NAA back in 2003. We've kind of evolved over the years. We've worked a lot on safety issues. Wandering prevention has been our main focus for several years, almost 15 years right now. And we've made a lot of progress on that, so I'm proud of that. I took a little hiatus. I tried to retire. I failed spectacularly, but I needed to take some time to get my daughter set up in her adult life. So I did that, and I was gone for about a year and a half, and recently returned to NAA as a board chair. So that's what I'm doing now, and working on online stuff, primarily webinars and podcasts.
Yeah, and so this is why I want our viewers to meet you, Wendy. So recently I got sent a piece by Wendy for I think it was on Facebook, and it really it got me emotionally. And I know that I'm hopefully Lou will put this in the show notes because I want people to, if you're on Facebook, I do want you to watch this podcast because it's actually extremely disturbing, but it's the truth. Wendy, tell everyone what about it. Tell everyone what you talked about.
Okay. I'm doing this because I want to share lived experiences. So my own experiences now, I have a 26-year-old daughter. Now her name is Allie. She has profound autism. She is a non-speaker. She has epilepsy. And life has been really rough over the years. I mean, we are in the trenches all the time. So we're down on the deep end of the spectrum. And I have seen this effort over the years as an advocate. And it started probably maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago ish, where self advocates in the autism community came in and tried to get us to stop saying that this was a serious issue. And they're trying to convince us that there's nothing wrong with having autism. And don't talk to us like or treat us like we're some kind of a disease. And that was never what we were doing, but we were trying to bring attention to the fact that our kids were not able to be the keyboard warriors online and to advocate for themselves, and because they were too sick, basically. So it was kind of this battle going on between we had Autism Awareness Month, and then that slowly evolved because these advocates successfully made it this way into autism acceptance. And I'm not accepting this. Like, this is not the life that my daughter should be living. This is too hard. This has happened to too many of our kids all over the world. And what are we doing with this diagnosis? And it shouldn't have, all of these people should not have the same diagnosis. So I really wanted to shine a light on profound autism because those kids are unable to speak for themselves and advocate for themselves. And also, we don't hear enough from those parents because they are many times imprisoned in their own homes. I have lived this life where I can't leave my daughter for 5 minutes. She needs eyes on her all the time because she has seizures and you're living in fight or flight mode. So, how are you going to have time to advocate and go to like IAC meetings or something like that, when you're full-time caregiving and literally cannot take 5 minutes to just take a breath and have a coffee, right? So I wanted to share these stories because this is autism too. Autism is not a gift for these kids. They have gifts. Our children themselves are our gifts, and we love them more than life itself. But this profound autism is a very difficult life. And now that we have this tsunami of kids who have aged out of school, and as parents, we're getting older, the group, when autism exploded, is like our kids, Polly, and now we're getting older, up in our 60s at this point, and what's going to happen to our kids when we're not here? There's nothing set up for them. So I want to bring attention, and I want to give our platform at NAA to the parents to say, tell me what your day is like. Let's show the world what our kids are going through every day, how hard it is, and how that also affects the family. And let's ask that question, what's going to happen to my child when I'm no longer here?
Wendy, I can't thank you enough for doing this work. I mean, it's so important. Well, we're going to talk in a minute about how people can get in contact with you. But one of the things you spoke about when I saw your Facebook post was tragically a mother who allegedly killed her daughter with.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? Because this isn't the first time we've seen this, and it's not going to be the last.
No, and one of the things I said was I was really afraid that we're going to start seeing more of this because, as I said, we along with our children are aging out, right? And so I can't imagine leaving my daughter behind without having something set up where I am at peace with it and knowing that she's going to have the best life possible that I can give her. And so I don't know the specifics of what happened with this mom. It happened about a half hour from where I live. It's, my home state. I don't know what her lack of support was. I do know she was a sole caregiver, which in itself is so stressful. And I do know that her daughter was profoundly affected with a lot of medical issues along with her, autism. So, when I saw that story, it really broke my heart. And, of course, we know it's not new, although you don't hear about these stories very often, but in the community, you'll hear about these stories. And I thought, what we have to show people, the level of desperation that you get to at certain points when you are a parent of a child like this. So I will say, and yeah, and I was going to say it pains me to say it, but no, it doesn't. It's the freaking truth. So I'm going to say it. There have been times throughout my daughter's life and the last 26 years where I have thought my girl is never going to be able to live without me. There is a 70% chance that she will be sexually abused in her lifetime as a disabled female. What is going to happen to her when I'm gone? And the thought, in a clear-minded way and not suffering from depression or anything like that, I'm trying to come up with ways that we can go out together, because I don't want her to live a life of being abused without me. I would rather that we were both gone at the same time. And I was like running these scenarios in my head of like the best way that we could die together. That is the point of exhaustion and desperation and fears and hopelessness that you get to when you have a child who is so incredibly vulnerable. And I just felt like I needed to spill it. And I needed other parents to know that if these thoughts are going through your mind, you are not alone. And obviously there's never any excuse, to take your child's life and take your own life. And that's the last thing anybody wants to happen. But let's reach out for help. And there's not enough resources available. So let's do it together and we'll talk about it. And hopefully by sharing our stories, because we've been hidden in the shadows for so long, maybe we can get some action and we can find some solutions that will allow our kids to live the best possible life for them, right? Person-centered planning, least restrictive environment, with people who are capable of caring for them in a professional and kind and loving way. So that's what I want to do. That's the goal.
So, Wendy, if there's someone listening now, and I've spoken to countless parents with profound autism, and they say that they don't want to go before their child. They all say that. I mean, like you say, but if they're listening right now and they're feeling like they want to take their child's life, where do they go and get help? Seriously, where is there help for our children and us as parents?
I called the director of the Department of Health here and I asked the same question. I went onto their website and I said, okay, so if this happens with a parent, where are they supposed to go? Do we call our caseworker? Because here, every state is different, but we all, we have caseworkers. I've never met Allie's caseworker. He's never even called me. He has no idea what our life is like. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you do? And all of the resources on the Department of Health website were saying call places like the Trevor Project. It's not customized to families that are dealing with autism. I feel like everybody needs to have a check-in person, and it should probably come along with whatever services you're getting with your child. So we have like an independent plan that we're doing. It's like a self-directed plan, but there is a caseworker, and maybe if everybody had a caseworker that was checking in, quarterly, every 6 months, something like that. Are you guys okay? Is there anything that you need? I would prefer something like that as a where do you reach out for help? If you don't have family to reach out to and friends, which a lot of us do not because we're so socially isolated, taking care of our kids, we don't get out. We lose our friendships. People, don't want to hang out with us because there's a lot that comes along with that, along with profound autism. We need somebody kind of assigned to us. So that's one of the things that I would like to advocate for is like a check-in person. Let's make sure this family is okay. And then to help them establish a plan, a transition plan for when the parent is no longer able to care for their child themselves, help come up with a plan that works for everybody and that will give their child, the best life possible.
Wendy,
It's a huge problem.
I spoke to a lady once who called me, and she was calling me from underneath the stairs in a cupboard.
Hmm.
And she said, I can't go out because my adult son will attack me. And I said, you've got to call someone for help. And she said, I can't call them for help because they will take my son away.
Right.
So I would rather stay in this cupboard. It was awful.
Yeah, we have had calls like that too. Parents locked in bathrooms, parents locked in the garage, kid, having a horrible meltdown, and it's too dangerous to try to de-escalate them. And then you really can't. I mean, who's going to call the cops? Because what is going to happen? They're going to take your kid away. And if your kid ends up someplace other than your loving home, how are those meltdowns going to be handled? They're not going to be handled well.
Yeah.
Because people don't like being hurt. Obviously, you don't want to be physically assaulted by somebody. When it's your own child, you can take it because you love them and you know that they can't control their bodies and that they don't want to be doing this, obviously, but they literally have no control over their body. Who else is going to understand that? If they don't love your child, they're going to fight back. And there's way too many stories about abuse in group homes, just because, of course, people are going to lose their patience and the physical stuff, especially the physical attacks that come along with meltdowns, the aggression can be really hard to deal with patience.
Well, we definitely don't talk about this enough. So thank you for what you're doing. And it's a hard subject. And for people watching now who maybe don't understand, you clearly don't understand because you don't have a child like with profound autism. But it's
Right.
really important that we gather around, stand shoulder to shoulder with these people, because as Wendy's pointing out, we have a serious situation. This is not going to be the last case we have of someone killing their child with autism, and we need to stop it. We need to prepare for the future for these beautiful adults with autism. Okay. How do people get in contact with you so they can go on your podcast and talk about how they're living with profound autism? I think this is going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
therapy for everybody.
Yeah, I want to hear from parents. So the podcast is called Let's Get Real. You can reach me directly at Wendy. You can email me, wendy@nationalautism.org. Just shoot me an email, tell me a little bit of your story, give me a phone number, and give me the best times to call. This is a recorded podcast. So if you're interrupted, you need to leave, you need to go take care of your child, it doesn't matter. We'll just stop recording. I know what that life is like. You don't have to worry about making yourself available. and worry about being interrupted. We stop, we wait, and then we'll get back into it when we can. I will work around parents' schedules. I know, I don't care if we have to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning when your kid finally falls asleep. Let's just do it, because we have to bring attention to profound autism and basically, scream for help over here. They're talking about this, on a federal level. We're hearing more about it, which is absolutely wonderful. But I think the personal stories will kind of drive it home, and hopefully we can get the states to also start working on supporting the families with what they actually need.
And so, Wendy, will you come back on CHGTV and tell us how it's going? Keep reminding people what it's like, what you're hearing as well. It's very important. Where can people actually watch the show?
So we had it streamed. So we only have one episode so far. It's posted on our YouTube channel. So youtube.com/national autism. And it also streamed on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/national autism. So you can go to our socials if you want to watch the first episode. And there's also contact information for us there. I'm going to be primarily posting it on YouTube.
Okay. Wendy Fournier, I can't thank you enough for being on this morning and for all the work that you have done and now are continuing to do. And this podcast is so important. I'll definitely be tuning in. Thank you, Wendy.
I love you so much, Polly. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
All right, viewers, so we're going to go to Doctors and Scientists, but just before we do, just to remind you that next Thursday on Movie Night, we are going to be playing Who Killed Alex Bordalakis. This is a documentary by Andy Wakefield. It was shot on iPhone 4. We did not know the outcome of this film. We did not know it was going to be a film. So this footage is incredibly raw, and it's it's an extremely disturbing movie, I have to be honest. You can also watch it now if you want. Just go to the movie section of CHGTV and you'll see it there. And you can watch it on Roku on your television, because we're on Roku as well. And now we're going to go to Doctors and Scientists.
Well, good morning, CHD. I'm your host, Brian Hooker, for the show Doctors and Scientists. And it is the wonderful time of this month where I get to turn the tables and have on the amazing Polly Tommy. And Polly becomes host of the show, and she gets to interview me. So you get to do all the heavy lifting. I'll just sit back and, I don't know, eat bonbons.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brian. All right, well, so we've got quite a lot to cover on this show, but let's start off with this Sage Open Medicine paper. Tell us what it is, and then we're going to watch a little video, aren't we?
Yes, we are. This is a paper that got published with Neil Miller back in May of 2020. This was a Vax-Unvax study. It was one of the original Vax-Unvax studies that was done basically using data from 3 medical practices across the United States, vaxxed versus unvaxxed children. We showed that the vaxxed children had many more ear infections, much more developmental delays, asthma, and then also gastrointestinal issues. This was peer-reviewed by Sage Open Medicine. It went through 11 months worth of peer review, 3 different cycles of peer review. Over that period of time, I actually recruited Neil Miller to come in and help me with the publication. And then finally, it was accepted in 2020 and appeared in print later in 2021. So this paper has come under fire recently, and I think that the video will help understand or help the story at least unfold. In 2018, I was approached by a group of pediatricians called the Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative, or the PHOI. This is a collaboration between physicians and scientists to investigate just what we're talking about today, the relationship between vaccination and health outcomes in children. PHOI is conducting a prospective study. They're actually recruiting patients for this study right now, and it will be an 18-year study to look at not only whether a child is vaccinated, but what vaccines the child is given and at what age. And they're also looking at retrospective studies like the study that I'm presenting here today. And this is directly using chart data from participating medical practices. The thing that PHOI gave me as an opportunity was to look at actual medical data. What Anthony Mawson did back in 2017 was wonderful, but it was based on parental survey. This is one step further where we can actually look at medical diagnoses. We can look at how many vaccines children received, what vaccines they received, and then what were the health outcomes. The data were comprised of 3 pediatric practices in the United States, and they are located disparately. It turns out that they are no less than 1,000 miles from one another, so it was a pretty broad swath of the United States. And the patients considered for this study were born between 2005, November 2005 and June of 2015. We started looking at the data at June of 2018, so the youngest children in this study, and some were excluded, that were under 3 years of age, but the youngest children that we actually included in this study were 3 years or older.
So there was a problem with that video, Brian? I don't understand what you did wrong.
There was a problem with that video, and this is a publicly available video. I did this for a Health Freedom Conference, and it was recorded in my lab, at Simpson University, where I retired 2 years ago. I look much younger in that photo. I don't, have I aged? We'll find out. The thing that was wrong in this video was I misspoke. The Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative did introduce me to the doctors that ultimately allowed me and my co-author Neil Miller to examine their data. This was de-identified data. Everything was HIPAA compliant. We actually had an institutional review board at Simpson University look through the protocol, exempt the protocol because it was all, de-identified, retrospective, looking back patient data. But really, the Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative was the prospective study. It wasn't the study that led to this paper in Sage Open Medicine. The reason that I misspoke is that at the time, CHD was considering adopting and becoming, stewards of the prospective study. So, and also at the time I was working 3 different jobs and raising a child then, probably 20 years old who had severe autism. And so therefore, in this particular video, I misascribed this retrospective study to the Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative. There was a complaint that was lodged anonymously to the journal Sage Open Medicine that I did not appropriately acknowledge that the data came from the Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative. It did not. It actually came from 3 physicians who I refused to name because I wanted to protect their anonymity. So the journal Sage Open Medicine ended up opening up this investigation, and there were about 5 different complaints that were associated with my paper. This complaint regarding me not acknowledging Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative in the paper itself was one of 5 different complaints. And Sage Open Medicine, to the life of me, would never give me a detailed list of all the different things that I needed to address in order to have this investigation dropped. On May 18th, they issued an expression of concern on the paper that appeared on their website. So when you go to the website, Sage Open Medicine, it actually has this big, daunting headline, expression of concern on this paper. It is being investigated. When you go to PubMed, also says expression of concern on this paper. So I was very frustrated. May 18th, the journal was not communicating with me. Supposedly this investigation was going on. And I was fortunate that Secretary Kennedy noticed this particular expression of concern, actually look at the paper itself, This is the one remaining vaxxed unvaxxed study on PubMed. It's the last one. It's the last vax unvax study. They took Mawson down. They took James Lyons Weiler and Paul Thomas down. Joy Garner was never able to get her data published in the PubMed journal. This was last man standing. And so Secretary Kennedy came in, wrote a letter to the journal and said, what's your concern? You know, you need to articulate exactly what the problem is with this paper. Sage then very quickly, within about a week of receiving that letter from Secretary Kennedy, came back and said, oh, well, it all boils down to this one complaint. He should have acknowledged the Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative because he said so, you know, back when this video aired in 2020, he said that they were the sponsors of data, or somehow he got the data from the Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative. But that's not true. I mean, if you look at what we call FOI, Pediatric Health Outcomes Initiative, FOI is not a retrospective study. You go to their own website. I got this on the Wayback Machine. It is a prospective study only. And unfortunately, when CHD started to take over this study, it became very, very evident that it would be very, very difficult to track down the patients that were registered. We didn't have enough patients to do good statistics. So eventually, we even dropped the prospective study. But all this to say, it was an error. It was an error on my part. It was an error on the journal's part. And, you know, I apologize that I misspoke in this video that came out in 2020. But this is also a part of a larger campaign to take apart any type of publications that would question vaccine safety, especially vaccines and neurodevelopmental disorders.
The main reason they're doing this is trying to divert everyone away from the fact that you had some seriously good data in there.
Correct. Correct. It's a big red herring. You know, don't look at the results of the publication. You know, don't, and they could not attack the paper for its scientific content. You know, I've had multiple complaints that have been lodged against this paper. I've always interacted with the publisher, Sage Open Medicine, to address those complaints. They've been satisfied. This is the first time that it ever rose to a level of an expression of concern. And again, it's all based on a website called PubPeer. PubPeer is known throughout research circles, at least in the health freedom movement, we call it PubSmear. And anonymous complaints were lodged on this website, PubPeer. And this is where the link to this very, very obscure video appeared. PubPeer itself is funded by individuals with ties to the pharmaceutical industry. PubPeer, the same people that fund PubPeer, this is it's Laura and John Arnold. They also fund Retraction Watch, which is a very, very pro-pharma news service. I guess you would call it a news service, but more of an editorial service that helps to take down papers that would besmirch the vaccine program in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so this attack has led to the complete removal of a paper by Neil Miller on vaccines and SIDS. It's also led to the removal of a paper that's 17 years old that came out, 16 years old, came out in 2010 regarding the hepatitis B shot and autism. And so it's all a part of a larger smear campaign. Here is the hepatitis B shot paper that is now shown as retracted. The Neil Miller paper is shown as removed. Not only was it retracted, but it was removed from the journal Toxicology Reports. And we've got to stand up. We've got to stand up for these papers. We've got to stand up to these individuals. One of the complainants that has complained publicly about these papers is an individual from Denmark named Elizabeth Bick. Elizabeth Bick does work for the same umbrella organization that publishes Retraction Watch. And she's been notably very, very pro-pharma, very, very pro-vaccine and has gone after these papers directly. Okay. But these are people that are not, they're not grassroots people. They're not independent people. They're basically taking pharmaceutical industry money, and they're using it to go after any independent research that would cause doubt for anybody to receive a vaccine or to have their child participate in the vaccination schedule.
And I just saw when you put up about Elizabeth Bick, it's like renowned microbiologist, blah, blah, blah. So, you know what? It's really becoming and they shout at me, you're not a doctor, you're not a scientist. But I know you're a good scientist, Brian, but I just want to say this. It seems to me the more qualified people are, is the more brainwashed they are or captured by big pharma. That's what I'm saying. Until, unfortunately, it happens to us or
Right.
people scientific like you, that you have to think, hang on a minute, what's happening? But I mean, I think we really have to stop this whole yelling at you're not a microbiologist, you're not a doctor, a medical doctor, you're not this, you're not that. We don't want to be these people because they're brainwashed. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm seeing.
They are brainwashed. All you have to do is look at the talking heads this week, just talking about the suggestion that you split up the MMR vaccine into three separate components. You have people who are derailing on television, people like Paul Offit, and really they'll say anything to affect the bottom line. They will say anything that they are paid to say in order to quote unquote refute, any type of logic around protecting children, around the safety of children. And I have to say, Polly, you said a mouthful. Parents are the best experts in their children. You have a PhD in Billy Tommy. You have a PhD in Toby and Bella Tommy, excuse me. And I have a PhD in Stephen Hooker. Okay. Parents are the best experts. Parents need to trust their instincts more. I have a PhD. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, but I saw what happened to my son. He regressed. I did not know what was going on. I had no idea, no clue that vaccines were not safe and effective. I had no clue of how they were tested. I saw him regress into autism in a story that we hear over and over and over again. We need to empower parents to make good decisions for their children. It's not about the scientists. It's not about the experts.
Quite right. Now let's just talk about the pseudonym of the person attacking the paper. Just tell us about that, please.
This is this worm. That is the pseudonym that they used. The proper term, the proper scientific term, genus and species for inchworm, when they attacked my article, mine and Neil Miller's article on PubPeer. Okay, so they do this anonymously. They don't really come out in the public and say, you know what, Brian, your paper is wrong, your paper is bad. So you can't confront them. You can't refute what they're saying. All you can do is you can let these babies be babies. I think about the Bible and wormwood, which is used as I think it's a euphemism for a demon, and I also think of the books, the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis, where wormwood actually is a demon in that particular book. I don't think that this is a nice thing. I don't think that this is a nice person. Inchworm, really, if you want to out yourself, come and see me. We can talk.
You're being attacked by a demonic, cowardly inchworm.
A cowardly inchworm. Why don't we do this? You can reveal who you are in public, and let's have a debate about vaccine safety.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the aluminum or aluminium, depending where you're living right now. I'm watching this paper with Carl Jablonski. Talk to us about that. The rebuttal.
The rebuttal. Well, there was a paper that came out in July 15th of 2025. I'll never forget it because probably it's the same day that we testified before the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations in the U.S. Senate. This paper was Anderson et al., but Carl cleverly actually started on the rebuttal as soon as the paper came out. What we found was that Carl and I, formed this research alliance that we do at CHD Science and Research. And we found that the paper actually said that it was preventative for certain neurological disorders. So aluminum in your body is good. It actually showed statistically significant preventative effects for specific neurological conditions. Okay, so whenever you see a paper that touts aluminum, which is a neurotoxin, as having some type of protective benefit against neurological issues, you know that there's some sleight of hand going on. The second thing that we noticed about this paper is they never did a zero exposure control group. They only looked at individuals that got a certain level of aluminum adjuvant in the vaccines that they received before 2 years of age. And then they looked at another group of individuals that got a little less. Okay. So they never looked at 3 milligrams of aluminum total exposure versus 0, or 2.5 milligrams of aluminum versus 0. They only looked at 3 versus 2.5, and then 2.5 versus 2. They would only look at these increments, and we know that that's a sleight of hand. That's the CDC's playbook. It's been their playbook for many, many years, is to not look at a complete placebo control. When you parse out these different categories of aluminum exposure, you wash out any type of signal that you might have whatsoever. It's a very, very old trick. We can blame our CDC colleagues, Frank DeStefano, Colleen Boyle, Diana Schendel, Marsha Lynn, Jürgen Alsop. Bill Thompson was a part of the fray at that particular point in time. But Anderson and the sponsor of this study, the Staten Serum Institute, the Danish vaccine developer that came out with this original Anderson study, is guilty as sin. They used this method so they could come back and say, nothing to see here. There is no relationship between vaccines and autism. But they trotted out a secret supplement to this article, to the article that appeared in the journal on July 25th, 2025. 2 days later, they came out with a supplement, and the supplement showed that depending on the concentration, that vaccines were associated with autism, they were associated with neurodevelopmental disorders, they were associated with Asperger's syndrome, and they were associated with PDD-NOS, or pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified. So very quietly, they snuck out this supplement that basically denied everything that the original publication said. So it checked all the boxes. It showed, more aluminum, more autism, more aluminum, more PDD-NOS, more aluminum, more Asperger's syndrome, more aluminum, more neurodevelopmental disorders in general. Okay, you can't make this stuff up. They just hid it in this supplement. Carl, bless his heart, he saw the supplement. He saw that the supplement was swapped out 2 days after the original publication, and he jumped on it as quickly as possible. We wrote a letter to the editor of the journal to retract the paper. It was denied. Secretary Kennedy wrote a public letter to the editor of the journal. It was denied. And now finally, we are able to it took us 12 months almost, or over 12 months, but we're finally able to get a PubMed peer-reviewed journal that will publish our rebuttal for us. And it's coming out this month, August, in what's called Integrative Medicine, a clinician's journal.
Brian, do you think aluminum is the key component that's causing our children I don't like using the word, to be vaccine injured?
They have used aluminum ad infinitum in vaccines. The aluminum exposure rose with the explosion of the vaccination schedule starting in the late 1890s through the 1990s into the 2000s. Okay. I believe it's one thing that can cause a toxic tipping point that will lead to a cataclysm, a neurodevelopmental cataclysm. Okay. I also believe that that can be hastened by three live viruses in one vaccine, namely the MMR vaccine. I also believe that it can be hastened by mercury, which is a neurotoxin, which all of the vaccines that my son received that could have mercury did have mercury through the preservative thimerosal. So I don't think that, I think that this is a default neurodevelopmental disorder that when kids hit their toxic tipping point, they go down a cataclysmic hill called autism.
Now, if we were to say, right, okay, that's it, no more aluminum in vaccines, what are they going to do?
They have to come up with an alternative. Most vaccines that on the schedule have some type of aluminum adjuvant in them. Okay. So they would need to come up with an alternative, or they would need to reformulate vaccines so they would have more of the actual antigen, the pertussis toxin or the diphtheria protein or whatever. And vaccines would not be as cheap. Okay. They would have to reformulate them, make them more expensive. I don't trust the FDA, the CDC, the NIH as far as they can slobber. Don't trust the vaccination industry. So anything that they reformulated to take aluminum out of vaccines would have to be appropriately safety tested.
And here's the thing, they say, well, why are you two getting so stressed out? It's a safe amount of aluminum for babies. To me, that's like saying, here's a mug of rat poison. Just take one sip. That's a safe amount for you. I mean, poison is poison.
Poison is poison, and the safe limit has never been established for aluminum adjuvants. These were grandfathered back in the late 1920s. Okay, this is where alum, which is aluminum sulfate, was found to disrupt the immune system. They found that when they added aluminum sulfate, to vaccines, it would cause a more exaggerated immune response. Well, duh, the immune system is saying, what's going on here? Why are you putting this into my body? And so they do have the response, and so much so that they found that they could produce alum cheaper than vaccine components like antigens. So they made vaccines cheaper. They made them cheaper. The CDC back in the days of Julie Gerberding used to call these adjuvants hamburger helper, because they could take the hamburger that was the antigen in the vaccine, and they could put a little hamburger helper in it, and they could extend the antigen, make it go further, and make vaccines cheaper. That is why it was put in there.
Okay, this is fascinating stuff, and it explains exactly why our children are so injured. I just
Yeah.
want to talk for a second because we've got a few more minutes. I just want to talk for a second about we've heard from Wendy Fournier about the adults with autism. I also just want to say, Brian, there's an awful lot of celebrities. Robbie Williams, apparently, big musician, coming out saying, "Oh, just been diagnosed with autism. I knew something wasn't right." Listen, whatever you've got is not the autism that our children have got. My child can't play a guitar, sing, travel around the world being a famous pop star, staying in hotels, get married and have children, and then suddenly go, oh, it's just got a touch of autism. They're normalizing this autism, this profound autism. I don't like to use that word either. In fact, I don't even like the word autism. It's
Right.
vaccine injury. Let's talk about that because we've heard from Wendy. We know parents have been, right back to Alex Bordelaka's day,
Hmm. Hmm.
killing their children, which is not okay. It is not okay
No.
to kill your child. But let's just talk a second, Brian. You know what it's like, as I do. It's we don't want to die and leave our children in this world with the way the world is right now.
Absolutely not. This makes my blood boil, this normalizing of autism. And then all of a sudden, somebody gets their trendy boutique diagnosis that they get to wear, like a badge of honor, and have people, just boo-hoo over them, and talk about their plight so they can do big feature articles in People magazine or whatever. That's not real. I mean, if you want to have a cartoon diagnosis, we can all say that you're Woody Woodpecker or whatever we want, you want. But normalizing it absolutely does nothing for anyone. But when you are looking at somebody that has severe motor dyspraxia, severe developmental delays, severe cognitive impairments, Paul, you're absolutely right. You agonize. about the world that they are in after you pass away or you are unable to take care of them. That is an agony that you live every day. You go to attorney's offices, we have an appointment next week to sign yet another set of papers for conservatorship, guardianship, all these different things for my son after my wife and I pass away, for his estate, establishing a special needs trust. It is an absolute nightmare. And for those parents that don't have options, that don't, that do not know, that are at their wits' end, because they're surviving God knows, what, with their child, then you can totally see and totally understand where somebody would get to the end of the rope, and then you've got Who Killed Alex Bortolakis.
Yeah, and we're going to be playing that movie next week on a Thursday, on our Thursday movie night, and it's not for the faint of heart. It was shot on iPhone 4, and it's the lead up to the mother murdering her son with the godmother. I mean, it's no one knew that was going to happen when we were making that film. In fact, we didn't even know we were making a film. We were just recording it on little iPhone 4s.
Right.
The treatment of this boy was so disgusting, and that's I think what we all fear the most, isn't it? That once the authorities get hold of our sons, we know the torture they're going to be under, either through psychotropic drugs or miscare.
You have no clue what would happen to your child if all of a sudden there's what's called the dreaded words, that parents of special needs kids always fear: out of home placement. Out of home placement is, I know that group homes are horrific experiences. Maybe there are some good ones. I have not found them yet. I've seen individuals restrained in emergency rooms because there were no other places to take them. They were under restraints and under severe sedation in the same emergency room for a number of weeks because there was no place to go. And then, the level of psychotropic drugs, if somebody ends up in a state hospital or an institution or a group home. So that is not life. That is not, we're planning right now for the life of our children. And so they have a better life. But just thinking about it strikes fear into any parent's heart.
Yeah, and you know what, Brian, we need to cover this way more on CHD TV, so we should make a big effort to do that as we go forward, because there's so many parents out there that are just in despair.
Absolutely. Absolutely they are in despair. And you want to look at everything policy wise, everything at the state level, everything at the federal level, to make sure that there are protections for your wonderful special children. We love these people. I mean, you pour your life into this individual, and there's not a whole lot of some gain. My son is not in a position that he can give back, and so many others, these Polly, you're living the same situation. So many of us at CHD are living through the same situation. They don't give back. You pour all your love, you continue to pour all your love, and then all of a sudden just to basically throw your child to the world because you can't take care of them anymore.
Yeah, it's tragic, the whole thing. And this is all because what? One needle, one moment in time.
Exactly.
We fight to try and prevent this to other people happening. But as always, it's been great being on. You educate us so well. The aluminum paper, the sage situation. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much, Polly. Thanks for everything that you do at CHD TV, also on social media, CHD Media. Um, it's astounding that the word gets out, and think of the lives that we're saving. If we can prevent one case of somebody that has severe motor dyspraxia, so they have a lifetime trapped in their body, or somebody that has severe intellectual or cognitive impairments, if we can prevent one of those, then we've done our job.
Correct. We have. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. I am so excited to be joined today for a special promo that we're doing straight from the Moving Mountains Holistic Health Summit. We have the one and only Lynn. Heather, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. It's an honor to be on your show.
Oh my goodness. Well, I want everybody to know about what you're doing and what's coming up at the beginning of October 2026. This is airing on August 21st. You've got a sum total of 5 weeks and change to get your tickets for
The Moving Mountains Holistic Health Summit. It is our 3-day event, our annual event, just outside of Chicagoland in the southwest suburb of Orland Park, Illinois, with a kickoff dinner with our special guest speaker, Dr. Brian Hooker, coming back again this year. We're thrilled to have you back for the dinner. That will kick off the event on October 1st, which is a Thursday evening. And then the all-day experience will be on October 2nd and 3rd, Friday and Saturday.
Tell me a little bit more about the genesis of this event. This is the second year, right? Because I
Correct.
remember when you did it last year,
Yes.
I had so much fun. We had a conversation right after the event, I think right after the close of the second day.
Yes.
And I asked her, are we doing this again next year? And you said, oh yeah, absolutely. Should we? And I said, no, yes.
Yes.
Yes, you must do this again.
Yeah.
So, how did you decide to put on an event? You're a natural health practitioner. What was the genesis of this?
That's a really good question, and I don't think many people know the origin of why I even decided to do this. But where you and I met was at the Trinity Health Freedom Expo, and that was a few years back. And I remember asking you at the time, if I ever host something, do you think you'd be willing to come? And you said I would, you would do your best, and you gave me your card. And I didn't think much about it for the next few years. And lo and behold, Trinity, which had a phenomenal expo, decided to move theirs to Indiana. And I started thinking, gosh, we still need something around the suburbs that are near Chicagoland area, and there isn't anything like this offered here. And the people in our community, just my clients that I see on a daily basis, and other local practitioners felt like people were hungry for more, and might not be able to travel out to Indiana. So I reached out to a few other colleagues. Dr. Todd Frisch, I reached out to you very early on and said, is this something that you guys might be willing to be a part of? And everybody just unanimously agreed. And so I was so humbled by that, and decided to move forward. And quite honestly, it was just going to be a one and done event. I wasn't sure what to expect. And when it was over, the feedback was overwhelming. And I remember Alex Eck saying, you have to keep doing this, right? And I said, okay, I think we have something here. So here we are, year 2, thrilled to have you back again. And
Right. But this is really special. If you're in the Chicago area and you went to the first event, hold on, because I think besides maybe me and Heather Lynn, you have a whole new slate of speakers. Is that right?
this is correct. So last year, I mixed together some local speakers and then some long distance, like yourself and Alec and Dr. Todd Frisch. And this year, I decided that I wanted a variety of different topics from some of the top world renowned holistic health experts that can really guide people in their journey to wellness. And predominantly all of them were able to make their schedules work, which is like a unicorn in this world. I mean, you know how hard it is to get everyone's schedules coordinated. And so it really is just beautiful that everybody will be flying in. I'm the only local speaker.
Mhm.
You'll be, of course, flying in, and
And
we
that's
have
right. Alex
speakers.
is coming back, right? Alex,
Alec, yeah,
yeah.
Alec will be coming back. He's in Texas. He'll be flying in. We have speakers coming from every corner of America, and including we have Dalton from Canada as well.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And you're featuring one of my absolute favorites from Long Island, New York, Dr. Larry Palevsky.
Yes, yes, a shout out to Dr. Larry. He will be, what is he speaking about? He is going to have a very interesting talk about parenting in this era, and ways that parents don't realize that they might be going down the wrong path with their children, and how to set them straight. And he's a
Well,
straight shooter, so I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
I think that's super important. We
Yes.
are in an era where people are making choices that are sort of no man's land. We haven't treated infectious diseases in the United States. People don't know. We act like measles, mumps, whooping cough, they're the boogeyman. But
Yes,
these are treatable infections, and if
absolutely.
you make decisions for your family that don't include vaccinations, then obviously, yeah, you have questions, and that's one of the reasons why I have so much respect for Dr. Larry,
Yes,
and you have natural healers. It's not just mainstream medicine. You're a natural
correct.
healer yourself. So there's so many opportunities. There's so many alternatives, and
Yes.
alternative viewpoints that you're presenting this year.
There is, and I think that people aren't even aware of what's out there. If this is the beginning of their journey, or even those who feel like they've been on this path for a long time, myself included, there's still so much to learn. You could always continue to grow and, continue on your journey to healing. It's just beautiful what everybody has to share.
What's the best way that people can get more information about the conference, that people can sign up, register for the October 1st evening event, as well as the October 2nd and 3rd, both days, conference it's Orland Park?
Correct. The dinner will take place in Mokina, which is right next door to Orland Park, and the actual
Okay.
event will take place in Orland Park. The way that they could learn more about the event and to order their tickets would be through the website link, which is displayed below my name. And there is a link there as well to order separately to attend the kickoff dinner so that they could start off the weekend with us the right way, meet all of the speakers up front and questions, mingling, getting to know other people within the community, networking, and really just starting off on the right foot before we begin the actual summit for the weekend.
Right. And you make it so easy. All you have to remember is movingmountainsummit.com.
That's it. It's about as easy as I can make it, Brian. So, yeah,
That is, well, please come to this conference. Please be Heather Lynn's guest, be my guest. Come and find us. Look for us. I will be signing my book, Vax, Unvax. We will have a Children's Health Defense booth with another Heather, one of
yes,
our science staff. Heather Ray she's our analyst slash admin for the science department. She'll be running the booth. You're going to have other exhibitors there as well.
yes, I will.
This is something you should not miss. So if you're in the area, if you're not in the area and you want to fly in, please consider attending this conference.
Absolutely. And I will just say for anybody who truly understands what a one of a kind experience this is, we have people already booking their flights from the UK that will be joining us because they see the value. People are already booking from other states as well. I do have a discounted hotel block for anyone who's coming from out of town, and we seem to have quite a few. So you could always reach out to me as well for more information about that.
Excellent. Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing, for bringing people together, for educating, for bringing a diverse, just sort of thread of thought that gives people choices. It gives people alternatives. It gives people the opportunity to learn about natural health.
It is a pleasure to be a part of this community. It changed my life personally before professionally. And so now it's just beautiful to be able to guide other people in their journeys as well.
Absolutely. Again, the website, movingmountainsummit.com. You've got the information. Sign up, and we will see you on October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
We'll see you there. Thanks so much.
The power we have is the truth.
This is the nation's leading conference.
It's so empowering to be joining together and working for our children.
Coming to CHD was the best decision that I've made probably all year.
It is a new day when senators and representatives want to associate themselves with Children's Health Defense. Why? We're telling the truth, and they know that. And because people are listening to us, and they know that.
To me, health on a political level is the most important subject. We need to raise a healthy generation.
We, the people, are waking up. We are taking back the system.
The federal government's job is not to ensure the stable legal risk for vaccine manufacturers.
Remember, we're a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I can't say it any better.
We can live to see a better day where people will be healthier and where government and corporations will be forced to be more responsible.
You can't be a decent human being and know what we have now come to learn and turn your back on it and close your eyes.
Okay, tell everyone your name.
Hi, I'm Susan Bowen.
And this is a story about your daughter?
Yes, a story about my daughter.
How many children do you have?
I have two. Jane, she's 22, and Ray, he's 19.
Okay, so let's go right back to when you were pregnant with your first child. Did you ever have a conversation about vaccines or question them? What was your thinking at that time?
I just thought you get vaccines because they're safe and effective. I didn't really think twice about getting them. And back then, I didn't feel like it was pushed as much as they are now.
No, we didn't question them. I mean, why would you?
Yeah. And I got them while I was pregnant.
You did?
Yeah, I think those weird, they talked you into all these different things back then.
So you got maybe flu shot or something?
No, I didn't get that. It was something about the
Rogam?
Yeah, that.
So you got Rogam. Okay, because yeah, I see.
Thank you.
And so when she was born, how was she?
She was perfectly fine, and we did not do any shots. My husband at the time, he was against giving children shots. He didn't have any science or anything that he could show me, but he wasn't really into getting the shots, and our pediatrician said we needed to, so we thought we'd spread them out, kind of make us both kind of happy. She would get her shots because I wanted her to, and I spread them out for my husband at the time.
So what was the first shot she got then, if you're spreading them out?
She got her first shot with DTaP, or diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. Yeah, that one, when she was 6 months. And she had encephalitis, so her brain swelled, and she had high-pitched screaming. And then she got a DTaP in 2001 when she was 1 year old. And she had the same thing happen.
Okay, so no judgment here, just a genuine question here, because we hear the same story over and over again.
Yep.
So at 6 months, and you're spacing them out, you just go with DTaP, right?
Right.
And her brain swells.
Yeah.
And she's screaming and all that kind of stuff that happens with all our kids, right? So what made you, did you figure that out later? That
I figured it out later.
Okay.
I didn't know that her brain was swelling then. I called the doctor that night when it was happening, and he said just give her Tylenol or whatever. I didn't. And I ended up, she got better, so I just thought it was an anomaly. It was still, you need to get your child the shots, and all the fear that went, oh, you don't want them to get diphtheria, they won't be able to breathe and they'll die. So I ended up getting the next shot when she was 1. And
another DTaP.
Another DTaP, yeah, but nothing else.
No, and
as far as I knew, that's what it said they gave her on the chart. Who knows? Maybe they mix more into the cocktail. I have no idea.
And how was she after that 1 year?
She was sick again. She got brain swelling, but she got better after that too. I don't know. She couldn't really talk at that time. She started walking normally. and she was fine after that too. But then a year later, she got the measles shot. And that
Okay,
was
so
the
this is
kicker.
let's just go back a second. She's now 2 years old, if it's a year later. And how did you get a single measles shot?
I asked for it. They said they weren't making it anymore, but they had some old stuff, some leftovers from before. So they gave her just a single measles shot. And I think that was at 11 in the morning that day. And then at 2 o'clock, she just went to sleep, and she slept for 5 days. She'd wake up occasionally and nurse, and then throw up, and then go back to sleep. And that's when I called everybody I knew, and I found Barbara Lowe Fisher, and I read A Shot in the Dark. And that is when I figured out that Jane was having vaccine reactions.
Have you seen her vaccination records? Are you sure they didn't just give her an MMR? Are you absolutely sure? And I mean, it's sort of slightly concerning, isn't it, that they had some old single measles shots.
I'll look it up again.
Because I wonder, because we hear, the only reason I ask that is we hear sometimes that people were told they were getting something, and then they looked in their books and said, well, wait a minute, I got a DTaP and I asked for just a tetanus shot or whatever. So I was just interested.
Yeah, I'll look back on it. I'm pretty sure that last time I looked, it was just measles.
Okay. Wow. And how is she today?
She's great. She's beautiful and smart, and she gets A's in school, and friendly and productive, and she's fine. Her chiropractor says she does see some neurological damage from the vaccines, but nothing you can tell by just looking at her or talking to her.
So was that the last shot she got, the so-called single measles, and then no COVID shot or any of that kind of stuff?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely not.
Okay, and then you went on to have another child.
Yeah.
And did he get anything?
Ray got nothing.
Not even vitamin K?
Nothing.
How's he?
He's great. He has some back problems, but I think that's just stress.
But did he have any high-pitched screaming with the brain? Any brain swelling?
No. No.
So you have your own little Unvax study in your home?
Yes, I do. I mean, they have the normal, high school problems, college problems, challenges.
But they're not. Do they have autism?
No.
Are they paralyzed?
No.
Do they have allergies?
No.
Neither.
Food allergies. No allergies like to pollen. They just hadn't. Ray was sick a lot when he was little, and we did get titers done. Titers, you know what it is when you get them tested to see if they had diseases, and it said that he had diphtheria. I gave both the kids chicken pox with a lollipop party with my friends, and
so they caught chicken pox naturally?
Well, from a lollipop.
But not from
naturally. And then measles. They both had measles, and it really was only a rash on their body, and they were fine. And
so the measles shot worked then?
Yeah, the measles shot worked really well. I think Jane got measles when she was about 6, and Ray was 3. Yeah.
Because in the old day it was regarded as a mild childhood illness, so I don't quite know why we've got to this fear of we're all going to die. And your children didn't. Caught measles and did not die.
Yeah.
Or chicken pox.
The Brady Bunch episode that all the kids had measles, and they were like, yay, we don't have to go to school.
So what do you think when, we had a doctor outside the bus, did we not, this morning? I don't know if you were there for that, but sort of screaming or spreading misinformation when, as you can see, we're just listening to stories. What do you think when you see people saying that your children are a danger to society because they're not up to date on their vaccines? So that's the sort of Fauci and Bidens of this world. What do you think about that?
Well, nobody said that to me in particular. But what do I think about people telling me I'm a danger or they're a danger for not getting vaccinated?
Well, the unvaccinated are called, let's take it off you then. The unvaccinated are called a danger to society because they are potentially spreading measles, is what the dark side say, and all those kind of things. They're a danger. They're not vaccinated. And your children are regarded as not vaccinated. So I'm asking you, what do you feel about that with the press and the way that they push the dangers of the unvaccinated?
Oh, it makes me just want to educate people more. And it makes me work even harder to educate people. And I guess the more you push somebody like me down with that information, I'll just work that much harder to get my message out any way I can that they're wrong. They're not right at all.
And what do you say to the young mom who's watching right now and saying, well, you guys are crazy because vaccines are safe and effective because my doctor told me that and he has a medical degree and you don't? What do you say to that young mum, having gone through the experience, lived it both ways with a vaccinated child and an unvaccinated child? What's your advice to that young mum?
I would get a second, third, fourth opinion like I ended up getting. I left the pediatrician we were with, who was pushing vaccines on us, even after Jane's injuries. And I went to 2 more, and the 2 more said, hey, those look like vaccine injuries. I would be careful and do your own research. I had to do my own research, and I guess everybody is gonna find they need to answer their own questions and be their own doctor. They can't just rely on what other people say, and don't rely on what I say. Do your own research.
But you haven't got anything to gain from sitting here telling your story. A pediatrician does have something to gain by telling you to get your child vaccinated because they get paid for every vaccine, bonuses for every vaccine they give our children. So I think people should listen to the people who've lived it.
Absolutely.
I think it's the best research you can do is go out there and speak to people like you. What happened and what in your child, because the fear of the unvaccinated, they fear that if they don't get the measles shot, they don't die of measles. And your children had measles, and one had the measles shot. So it's a perfect study.
Absolutely. Perfect study.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for telling your story.
Thank you, Polly.
This and all CHD TV programming is made possible by generous support from viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution today to keep our programming going strong. Thank you.